episode 34 of an Earful podcast. This episode is with Jack Bottomley of MARMOZET'S.
Yes. We talk to Jack all about MARMOZET'S, where they are currently. We talk about some of the main highlights from the past two albums they've released. We talk download, we talk touring, we talk labels, we talk Roy Cropper.
Most importantly.
Yeah.
And me nearly getting croppered. Good old croppered. Which is a term I've just found out from Jack. I've got to
we'll get to the bit. Don't ruin it.
Yeah,
Don't ruin it.
He's loving that.
Fucking tell the story in the intro.
Ruining content.
Anyway, check us out on our socials. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all under an Earful podcast. Go on YouTube if you're not already on it. Check out our past episodes because we've got a bunch of video episodes now while we've been in quarantine. And yeah, enjoy the episode.
Enjoy.
All right. How are we doing, Jack?
I'm not so bad, thank you. How are you?
I think we're all doing okay.
Right, yeah.
I think we're used to lockdown now.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's sort of up and down in waves where you sort of enjoy it for a bit and then you're just like, I'm going insane, I hate it. And then it's like, it's actually quite cool, this, but yeah, it's weird. Definitely weird.
Circle.
Yeah.
I think you go in levels of like acceptance and then go to cabin fever and then back up again and then down again.
Literally.
It feels like you're on a summer holiday, don't it? Like I said, but then like sometimes like you wish you were back in work, which is weird because you never would have thought that.
It's like that long one. I don't know whether you had that, but like when I was in school, it was often like a 6-week holiday. But then there was one that was like 9 weeks. I think it was between like school and college or something where you get this extra 3 weeks where you're just like, it's a bit shit this now, actually. too much free time.
Things like that, anyway, when you actually have like a solid amount of time off work, I think you always get to that point, it's like, okay, we're running out of things to do now.
Yeah, literally.
But at least you can go places usually, but it's not like you can actually go anywhere to get out the house apart from if you want to go for a walk.
Yeah, down to park.
Crap, down to park, yeah. Let's just see the same like 3 things like throughout the week. It's just a vicious like process going around in a circle.
Vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So have you been spending lockdown then?
I'm trying to think what I've actually done. It's one of those. We've been doing a lot of like writing. I've been teaching through Zoom, sort of similar to this in a way. That's kind of it. And sort of trying to bring up a baby at the same time, which is bringing its own sort of things, you know. She's 11 months now, so it's chaos at the moment. She's just started walking.
Oh, wow.
All right. Congratulations, though.
Yeah,
thanks. It's amazing. It's hard work, though, not going to lie. It's fun. It's fun at times. Again, it's sort of just like, but it's been nice for us just to spend a lot of time with her solely, do you know what I mean, and not sort of be away from her at all. So that's been really good. She seems to have enjoyed it. She seems to enjoy anything, though, but, you know. So, yeah.
Probably the best time, yeah. I was
Matt.
going to say, it's probably the best time to probably raise a child, isn't it? Because you're actually just at home. There's no, like, limit to how long you spend at home at the current point. It's probably like the best time as such.
No, I think so. It's like, yeah, like, or worse. This is the thing. I think because she's sort of kind of developed now and everything, like, we were sort of on about this. Like, we've got friends that have, or Becca's friends rather, that are having kids at the moment or about to have a kid or just have had a kid. And, like, that's kind of terrifying, the thought of that, I think. Just because, you know, just the fact that you've got to go into a hospital anyway and you sort of want to be as far away from them as possible.
Yeah, totally.
I mean? So
yeah.
I think we've sort of had her at a good time. Not that we'd sort of planned for this coronavirus thing to happen and be like, oh, we should be fine by then. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's sort of had its positives, definitely, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So we didn't make many notes for this one, just down to the fact we just accepted this just to be like a standard conversation. But one of the main ones we did write down was the fact that you and the rest of the guys in MARMOZET'S was probably the most positive experience we've had supporting another band when we was in our old band, when we played with Death Institute with you guys.
Yeah.
And just in terms of like, one of the main memories being that we had a massive pep talk off Sam that we shouldn't pay to play shows. It looked as like serious, dead straight in the eyes. Was like, promise me you'll never do it again.
Yeah,
but, okay, yeah, cool.
It can be sort of quite intense at times. It doesn't mean it to come across as an intense thing. He's sort of all trying to be as positive as possible, and he's sort of, I don't know, it's funny sometimes. People are a bit like, what? But he's actually just been really nice. I mean, he genuinely
from a good
means
place.
it. But you do see it
Intense
happen,
moment.
and yeah, he does have these sort of intense moments, but in a good way, because it's like from the
Yeah,
heart.
for
Do you know what I
sure.
mean? It's not just
Yeah.
like, yeah. But I guess sort of I'm not really like that. So, but he's definitely like, he has these flurries of complete sort of passion out of nowhere. You're like, all right, yeah, cool. That's that.
At least it was about something that was actually like, yeah, you shouldn't really do that because pay to play sucks. But yeah, just say in terms of like you guys with the mentality of how you treat support bands when they play with you, and just actually treating as like everyone's equal. There's no like we're
Yeah.
bigger than you, etc., and all of that. I think it was just setting the right mentalities, because then from then on, we've been like, every time we've had a support band or we've spoke to or tried to network with a different band, it's saying that right attitude. I think that's just the
Exactly.
best way to be about it.
Exactly. And I think, we've been a support band, well, probably more than we've done headline shows as well. So you sort of, and we've been on tours where it hasn't been that nice, and there's been a bit of a weird dynamic between the sort of headline band and, where you won't speak to them for the first, like, I don't know, 2 weeks or something. It's happened before when we were out in the States. And it's just not very sort of nice. You do it because it's, at the end of the day, it's one of the most enjoyable experiences you can do, I think, as a musician, is play a show or tour, and do shows every night. That's just the best thing ever, really. So I think to have like sort of neggy vibes, it's not cool, is it? Do you know what I mean?
No.
You don't want to be around that at all.
See, that's like the dream for me, that just to go out to the States and just like tour all the way around that, just so you can get to see all the sites, and obviously just enjoy like being with like your bandmates and that, and just like doing something that you love. What was it like for you guys going out to the States for the first time?
The first time we went was amazing. It wasn't a tour. It was literally, we were kind of sent out by a guy called Dave Rath, who's the A&R guy at Elektra now. He was at Roadrunner. He basically sort of jumped on us, and he was sort of, I don't know whether he was sort of fairly new to doing A&R for them or something, but he sort of found us somehow, and he was like, right, we've got to fly you over. You got to impress the bosses, and we want to sign you and all this. And we were like, yeah, that sounds amazing. We were like, I think I was 16 or 17, so I was pretty young.
Yeah.
And they flew us out to New York, and we stayed in New York for like 3 nights, did 1 gig, and it was like a 10-band bill, which apparently is the norm out there, which we didn't know about at all. So we were like the first of like, I think there's literally 9 other bands on this bill. Misery Signals were headlining. It was in Brooklyn, I think. So that was like unbelievable, because it was the first time we'd ever actually done a show out of England or Scotland or Wales, out of the UK.
Yeah.
Just this one-off thing, and that was just, it was amazing. It was completely amazing, and they did the full sort of thing. They showed us around the offices and all that, and it was like, yeah, we want to do this. This is amazing, But then sort of from then on, we've done some weird tours out there. Done some long ones. Did like 3/4 of Warped tour that was pretty mental, pretty full on. The last one we did when we went out there was a complete disaster. It was like this headline run that we did, and we didn't really promote it that well. And Will didn't end up coming to America with us because there was a problem with his passport. We basically all had 2 passports, one with a visa in it, one without, that we'd travel with and have it on us, sorry, and then a visa one if we had to send it to go to another country if we needed to, type thing. And Will's second passport, he sent that one off by accident for the American visa, and his middle name's Edward, but in his second passport it's spelled Edward. For whatever reason, I think they must have just not read his writing very well. So they rejected his visa. So he was like sat in Heathrow for like 2 weeks waiting to come out, and then by the time he did come out, Becca was sort of developing nodes. So her voice was really struggling, and we ended up having to cancel the rest of the tour anyway, the same day that Will got okayed for his visa.
Man.
It sucked. We were like tracking bass tracks off the Kemper literally about an hour before the gig, because all his gear came, but he wasn't there, and it was just like,
So you just start putting it on the backing tracks then?
Yeah, we had like Will on the laptop that I'd literally tracked in the venue. It was just like, we sort of got away with it. There's a couple of bits where, I was like, obviously the time difference was a bit weird as well.
Yeah.
So I think it was mega early in the morning where he was, and I was like trying to ring him, just like, mate, I don't know your part for this bit, and there was a couple of bits where we sort of thought they sounded fine, and we came to actually play them. There's bits where there's bass lines where there isn't actually bass lines in the song. I was a bit like, But so it was a bit weird. It was really strange, actually. But yeah, it's been a bit, it's a crazy country. Definitely at the moment, it's bloody batshit.
Oh, yeah, it's mental. It's absolutely mental.
My experience of it, though, they've been sort of mixed, I guess. They've been good, and it's just very tiring because it's expensive for a band to tour there. So I think you obviously have to go out there for as long as you sort of can to make the most of it in that sense. But we'd never done I think we did a tour that was nearly 3 months long or something in one go. We did like 2 tours back to back. And we were just like,
That's insane.
Fuck.
You do just become a bit zombified. I think it's a bit strange. You normally get it like where you get a sort of second wind, but you sort of we got past the second wind and we just didn't even. You just like, ugh. And the drives are horrendous, and it's not.
Did you have much time to explore right there, like stuff that you wanted to go visit?
Well, I think the last time we went, me and Becca tried to as much as we could.
Yeah.
Times before, we never really did. It wasn't until sort of the last sort of couple of years we were touring where we actually did want to venture out around venues and make the most of it and explore the cities we were going to, because we just wouldn't before. We'd be sort of just that frazzled or hungover from the night before that you just want to sit in the venue, do your sound check, and then just chill and then do the gig, and then you're off to the hotel type thing. So
yeah,
I think just by putting a bit more energy in yourself, by going out to a restaurant or to a cafe before the gig, you get so much more out of it. They're definitely more memorable that way. So yeah, but we sort of didn't learn that until later on, I guess. It's all about the evenings.
So as it works, so you mentioned it being that you have a lineup of like 9 to 10 bands. So when would a show start/finish?
I mean, we'd never toured with that many bands. We did one tour and there was 5 bands.
Yeah.
And that sometimes ran into some strange issues because some of the venues, actually it was with issues, that's quite funny, no pun intended, but it depended on the gig because some venues had like curfews, so it was like under 18 shows, so the venues had to, like the curfew was like 9 p.m. and you've got 5 bands to play. So that gets really weird. We did one in Canada, I remember, and I think we went on at 4:30. And it's like a gig, like a proper gig, but you're on at 4:30. It just like
crazy.
Mad.
Weird
It's like a mini festival.
Yeah, but that's just sort of what they do there because there's that many bands out there, and the venues are quite hard to fill because it's such a big country. It's not like say here where you've got like little pockets of sort of fan bases and they're not too far away from each other and people can travel, and you don't really have that there. It's more just everyone's kind of, they go to their local show, and some of them won't, a local show might be an hour drive anyway for them. So they have to have more bands to sort of fill venues, basically. That's kind of how it works out there.
Yeah.
Which is, just
that sort of makes sense. So when you think of it that way, that doesn't make sense that they would do that.
No, definitely. It's just a way of pulling more kids in, I guess. Pull more people into the crowd. But yeah, weird.
Cool.
Seems like a good thing and a bad thing. You get to see more bands, but then the bands individually are fighting against one another for the attention on bills like that, whereas 9 of them.
Yeah, so I think you see a lot of co-headline shows in America as well. Like, whereas you don't as much here. But that's purely down to that same thing. It's just because, like, we did a co-headline tour with The Used and Chevelle. Chevelle were a band I'd never heard of before. We did the tour, and then they had like a top 10 Billboard hit or something in the early 2000s. They like this sort of similar sounding to The Used in a way.
Yeah.
So those gigs were really strange because when The Used headlined, they'd be a predominantly The Used crowd, and we'd have a better gig because the crowds that like The Used really sort of took to us more than they would at a Chevelle show. The Chevelle fans were very much for Chevelle.
Yeah.
So you get this sort of strange thing sometimes there where you sort of, even though you're the same tour, it feels like a completely different lineup every night almost, depending on who was headlining. But yeah, it just depends on how many people you can bring in at the end of the day, because there's nothing worse than driving for 12 hours and playing in front of 20 people. It's demoralising. I can tell you that for a fact.
No, I can 100% imagine, especially that distance. I remember we've had experience of when we've like drove to London, and it turns out there was a typo in the Facebook message we got from the other guy in the other band he was organising it. You put 360, and actually it was 36.
But it turned out to be most of the bands watching each other.
Yeah, so it was like 16. that was
me.
Oh man, it's shit like that's horrible. It's proper like, oh, we've done it though. It's funny. I mean, you remember gigs like that more though, and I find you actually end up having a better show weirdly, because it sort of takes a bit of. Well, there's those ones where there is more people there and your adrenaline's proper going. It's just like ace and you're loving it. But I find the sort of middle shows where there's maybe not as much, and then you have the sort of empty shows. The empty shows can actually be the best ones in a way. You're just a bit more relaxed and you sort of seem to be a bit more on it. It's a bit weird, a bit more enjoyable.
You just realise you can have fun with it, so there's not as much pressure.
Exactly.
And that way you
exactly
perform better.
100%.
Yeah, I think it completely erases that whole thing of overthinking when it's a bigger crowd, because as soon as it's a bigger crowd, you're like, holy shit, I can't get a single note wrong. Whereas if you did an empty one, there's just not that pressure that exists then.
Shrug it off and say fuck it, and
yeah,
who's to know,
exactly.
who's to care.
Yeah.
So what was Download Festival like for you? Because we was there in 2018 when you were performing. We was watching you there, but that must have been crazy. Like just looking out and seeing that amount of people.
Yeah, it was completely mental, like genuinely mental. It was, I think the thing about that year for us, that sort of touring cycle, was that we sort of did the first album. We did a bunch of festivals sort of literally like a similar size. Well, we got this like weird slot around European festivals where we're on the main stage, sort of second or third on. And we did like Rockworks. We did like gigs where we completely didn't expect the crowd, or we sort of turned to this festival and like, oh, you're on this stage, like, holy shit, cool, all right. I think the funniest one was like, yeah, it was Rockworks. It was like an amazing day. We got to the venue, got to the stage and everything, walked out, and there was literally about 75,000 people watching us. And we were just like laughing, walking on stage, like, it's like 20 people here, because we'd never played the year before. I think it was in Belgium. We'd never played Belgium before. Like, okay, this is mental. I think we were the only band playing at that time. So we'd had like this sort of weird experience of playing festivals that big before.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that we'd sort of done that on the first album, it was all completely mental. Then because we had such a lull between the albums, I think going back to then doing the second album and going to do the Download Festival was a bit more sort of sweet for us in a way. It sort of felt like we've still sort of got it somehow. We've still kind of got it together, and we've managed to do this show. But that's definitely probably my favorite gig we've ever done. That one, it was just completely mind bending. It was just like, yeah,
crazy, isn't it? It's a big milestone for you as well. I mean, it's Download Festival, isn't it? It's like kind of the one that started them all, really, in a way.
No, definitely. It was an amazing experience. Like I think it's always been good Download. I'm trying to think how many times we've played it. I think we might have done it twice before, maybe, or once before.
Yeah.
But I remember one of them definitely. And it was ace. It's just a really well put together festival. It's just like all the bands are sick, everyone's lovely. It's just a really good weekend. And me and Becca actually stayed after we played, stayed for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
Just made the most of it. My dad goes every year as well, which is hilarious.
Cool.
With his actuary mates. He does all the glamping and all that shit.
Yeah.
So we met up with him, and he was absolutely hammered. It was amazing. It was great.
Did you bump into any like big rock stars like you were kind of like, what the fuck? Like, this is weird.
I met Herman Lee from Dragon
All
Force.
right.
That's like a weird thing. Like, cause he used to play Guitar Hero, so it was like,
yeah.
it sound like Sam Lutz is Herman Lee. And I can't remember whether it was that one or the one before it. I bumped into Chris Jericho. I didn't meet him, but that was sick. Like, yeah, he's massive. He don't look it on TV compared to the rest of them, but he's like absolutely, he's so huge. Ripped. It's crazy. So I saw him and I was like, that's pretty cool. And Metallica walked past me as well, actually, that year we played last, that was actually really, really, really crazy. They all look like wrestlers as well. We were going to, I think we were
even going, Lars.
Lars is maybe not so Lars, but like James Hetfield was like enormous. That was like quite a surreal moment. Like, they're not a band I sort of grew up listening to, really. I think they're sick though. Like, I really like them, but they're not a band I sort of grew up listening to, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Obviously, I thought it was amazing that they were headlining and we played the same stage as them. That's like completely mental. But I think me and Josh were walking from the dressing room bit or something, and we got stopped by security. They're like, you just need to wait because there's a band going through to the stage. And we're like, all right, okay, cool. And it was just literally just Metallica, just the four of them with all the guitars.
That's crazy, that.
Lars were like spinning a drumstick while walking. It was like, you can't work out whether it's
Ah.
really cool or really lame at the same time.
Yeah.
Sort of a mixture of both. But they killed it. They were sick. I've got like a bloody Metallica beach ball somewhere that I took. Hope that it'll be worth something one day. Probably not, but
That's sick. That's sick. So in terms of Marmozets, then obviously it's been a while since the second album. Both albums absolutely ripped, but yeah, so it's been a while. So what's the process now then? Is it that you're writing stuff, or is it you're just waiting to release an EP?
we're sort of trying to work it out at the moment. It's been a bit of a weird time, basically, because we sort of did the show in London, the Forum gig, and that was sort of like probably it was the biggest headline we'd ever done. It was amazing. We had such a great night. We sort of did a few dates after that around Europe, and it sort of was a bit rough for us, and it didn't quite go to plan, I guess. And then we came back, and then Becca found out she was pregnant. So she was sort of pregnant through this tour, and we didn't know. And then we were literally, we were basically sort of fishing for a sort of new deal, I guess. We'd sort of things with Roadrunners kind of slowed down. We sort of stopped all of that, so that came to an end. Then we were sort of looking for a new label to do the sort of next thing through, I guess. So we were sort of in talks with record labels and everything then, and then we sort of found out Becca was pregnant, and we were kind of told that that's it's going to be really hard for you to get signed basically while you're having a kid. People aren't going to want to sign you type thing, which we were like, fuck, that's really shit.
That's heavy.
Do you know what I mean?
That's really heavy.
It's like illegal, the jobs, that type of thing. So that was like obviously a massive
mad
blow to us. It was really difficult for me and Becca because, it's like we're having this baby, this is the most amazing thing ever. And then it's
supposed
like
to be the happiest time in your life.
Exactly. It is now, things have worked out, but at the time it was quite sort of, it's just upsetting, I think, thinking about it, because the band is the other thing that we love, do you know what I mean? And that's all we've ever done. So we sort of felt like that was kind of taken away from us, and then you sort of, part of us was sort of feeling a bit guilty about it, but then you think we shouldn't feel guilty about this. This is like the most amazing thing that anyone can go through, so we shouldn't have to feel guilty about this. So yeah, we kind of just put things on hold a bit, really, long story short. And then me and Becca, we sort of couldn't help but carry on writing though at the same time. It's just something we've done, and we really enjoyed doing it. So we weren't sure what the songs were going to go towards, whether we were going to start something new or whether it was going to be a Marmozet's thing or not. So we've sort of been in talks with everyone, and it's sort of, we're basically just writing towards potentially a new record at the moment. There's no pressure on it, which is quite nice, I think.
Did you have pressure on the previous records?
Not so much the first one. I think with your first one, it's quite nice because you've kind of got all the time in the world, and you're not sort of you're not sort of officially established until your first proper release. That's kind of when people see you as starting, is from when your first album began. So the hours, years, blood, sweat, and tears that you put in before your first album almost don't count, which is a bit weird because you sort of think, well, we proper slugged it for years before anything happened. But that's kind of just what happens, I guess. That's when you become official, I guess, is from your first record. So before that, not so much in terms of pressure. I think with the second one, definitely, because we just didn't write at all while we were touring. It was hard to write because we were on some crazy tours and everything, and it sort of really makes you appreciate other bands, how they can tour the world and they come out with an album every 2 years. It's completely amazing that bands can do that. I think now if we get to that position again, then we definitely will write on the road. But, we didn't know any better, really. We just sort of presumed we'd take a year out, and then, we sort of delayed the release. I mean, I think the first one we recorded 9 months before it was released. But then the second one we recorded, I think it's like November, December 2016. And then sort of finished it in January 2017. And then it was released in January 2018. So we had like this a year break then that was sort of just, we were sort of told to wait off. And I'm glad we did in the end, because we sort of got to do all the festivals then. But you know, that's kind of a bit of a weird one. It's just a bit of a weird sort of world, really. And I think we were a bit naive, and we sort of didn't maybe take it as seriously we probably should have done. We did take it seriously, you know, we absolutely loved it, but there was maybe a bit of complacency towards the sort of end of the touring cycle, if you get what I mean. We're sort of just like,
Yeah.
this is fun, this is just what we do now, and blah, blah, blah. And then sort of this happened, and it's a bit like, so we're really sort of fighting to try and get back to where we were effectively now.
Right.
But we're getting there. I mean, I'm sort of in touch with Gil, who recorded our second album. I speak to him maybe 2 or 3 times a week at the moment. We're going through songs and everything. And so, yeah, we're just sort of trying to whittle down to, we're trying to focus on sort of the best 10 at the moment. We've got like 60 odd songs written, so it's quite hard to sort
Shit.
of... I mean, there's a lot of, I say 60 songs, there's a lot of sort of, I said there's probably about 15 sort of instrumental ones. Somewhere we've got a verse, or we've just got like a chorus idea, and sort of maybe 25 where they're sort of full songs that we're just trying to, you know, work out really at this point. So some of which are ones that we wrote as a band a few years ago, and then there's ones now that we've written sort of, you know, within the last couple of weeks, I guess, that are sort of really getting there. So yeah, it's just, we're just a bit of a weird stage at the moment. We're just trying to work out what the next step is. And obviously with all this going on, it's hard because...
Oh, no, of course, yeah.
I think
absolutely.
We're sort of demoing songs, but normally at this point we'd have rough demos and you'd jam as a band, and then we'd sort of finish them off together. That's usually how it worked. Whereas you can't do that now, really. I mean, we probably could, but, you know, it's just it's maybe illegal to do that at the moment. So, you know what I mean? It's a bit weird.
We've been doing it as Zoom chat, haven't we, really, at the minute, where we're like, what do you think of this? About, well, your guitar's not close enough to the Mac, so I can't actually hear what you're playing. And we're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, there's sort of pros and cons with Zoom, isn't there? It can be a bit intermittent. And but I don't know how bands do. I've seen bands do, like, Zoom band rehearsals, and they're all playing together, and it all sounds in time. I'm like, they must have the
that
most
confuses
insane
me.
Wi-Fi ever.
Yeah, I've seen that. I'm thinking it must be just pre-recorded single takes, well lined up.
It must be.
And it's just for social media, just to post and say we're rehearsing.
It must be.
Feel a bit better.
Yeah,
must be. It must be like,
how are you doing that?
It's like, it must be the thing of where they have like Premiere Pro, where they've literally like just like put it into each corner, and then they've all just tracked the same thing. It must be. Because I've seen the ones of Nothing But Thieves doing it, where they're having like the lockdown sessions, and everything's perfectly mixed and everything's perfectly squared up and stuff like that. It's like, there's no way that's done live. No way.
They're one of those bands where it wouldn't surprise me if it was.
No, absolutely not.
They are that good, but it's funny, innit? I'll find out. I doubt it though. Do some inspectigating. Just made up a word.
Inspectigating.
Yeah.
I remember we had it where something similar was said about hard work with it being on the label. We have Ben who was in Lord Atlantis on the podcast. And he was saying that he got told by Ant, who was in Futures and then or Wanda currently, that the hard work only starts when you join a major label rather than before it. All of that beforehand doesn't matter. It's when you get to the label, that's when all the hard work and graft ups itself from there. Would you say that's about right?
Yeah, definitely, because you sort of, it's not just the band then, there's people that work for you, and they're then, obviously they work for other people as well, but they're sort of, you know, they're putting a lot of time and effort into you, so it wouldn't be fair for you not to put the work in back for them, in a sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
even though
100%.
the band is the product and it is the band that's sort of, you know, trying to do it and write the music and everything, but it definitely does change things when you sign, and it's kind of a bit crazy, because then you become, I think for a lot of bands, before you get signed, you'll often have a bit of a following, and then you sort of become quite well established to a degree. So like your local shows, you might do sort of 200 or 300 people or something. So you feel like the biggest band in the area of the local thing. Then as soon as you sign, you are then just the smallest band again.
Yeah.
And sort of then you're getting put on festivals, and you know, unless, I mean, some bands are just like big without the label, and then the label just helps them maintain it, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's the maintaining bit that's definitely the hardest bit, and that's the bit that a label definitely helps you out with, and they support you financially as well, they're the two main things. It's just having consistency and sort of having enough money to do it, really. That's the thing.
Yeah.
because otherwise it's just super hard. It's like we're in this position now, and I'm looking at like DIY bands that tour. I'm thinking that's just amazing, like how they can do that. Really, do you know what I mean?
We were just speaking to Malevolence on the last one, and they were saying like because they've started doing everything like DIY themselves as well, so they've got their own label and kind of putting things out themselves. Obviously, doing all the merch and stuff that way, and they said obviously it's a lot of work, but it pays off in the end because they're getting like near enough 100% of all the profits.
Yeah,
whatever. So the money's going back into the
Carry out
band,
the
if you get me.
promoter and
Yeah.
stuff.
That's awesome. But again, they're a band that are big enough to be able to do that and sustain that. Do you know what I mean? I think for sort of smaller bands, they have that same ethos, that same work rate, but they might just not have the following to be able to do it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, it's amazing when bands do that, and you see bands that become a massive success that are doing that, like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. They are all completely DIY. They're Australian band.
Yeah.
I really like them. I didn't know they were independent though, and all DIY.
Pretty sure they like have their own label. The band members do all the like they record everything themselves. They do all their own music videos, do all their own merch. One of them's like a graphic designer, and the drummer's the tour manager. And they just like own this like empire basically themselves, and they've started signing other bands as well. Like I think is it Pond and stuff like that, and so you know, and they're making all the money out of that. So you see, it can work. That's the thing. So it might be something that we look into because the sort of idea of having complete sort of control over everything you do is, you know, that's you can't buy that. That's the best, I think.
Yeah.
It's freedom as well. It takes a lot of pressure off you.
Yeah. The only thing I worry about is that then you haven't got those people sort of above you, I guess, where they'll be like, I don't know if that's quite good enough, and they usually are right for a reason. Do you know what I mean? It's like that they have that job because that is their job type thing to tell you that in a sense. So that would be my only worry, was that you sort of think that all this stuff's amazing and you release it and everyone's like, It's the
Best impression ever.
Yeah, innit?
I think it is that thing of where you crave that sort of like unbiased opinion when it comes to like material that you're writing, because you just don't think like, surely I don't think this is this good, and then somebody else is completely disagrees with it. You kind of need that sort of like opinion where it has no attachment. There's no ethos or anything like that to do with what you've written or compiled together, and that they can just give you the unfiltered opinion, and then you can go with it from that. And if it is positive, then great. If it's not, then back to the drawing board.
Literally that. My dad's a good one for that. He's just like brutally honest about everything, which is ace. But sometimes like, Dad, come on. Yeah, it's funny. But he's always been like that, but it's a good thing, I think. He's, you know, you've got to have honest people around you. Because I think if you've got loads of people bullshitting you, then it's just it's sort of unfair in a sense, as much as they might believe it. But you know, you can tell when a song's good or not, I guess.
Yeah, constructive criticism. That's what they say, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just funny when it's more. It's just completely. It's not even constructive. It's just pure criticism. You're like, right. I mean this in the nicest way possible, right? But it's not very good, is it? And you're like, cheers, Dad.
I don't think there is a perfect scenario. Even if they were blowing smoke, I would just disregard their opinion. I do that all the time. I'll show my partner something and go, "What do you think of this?" "Yeah, it's good." I'm like, "That must be shit. I'm redoing it." That again, sort of situation. But I think, considering you've got 60 initial ideas or, you know, songs, you're picking the best of what you've got, and you've got time to do that now, especially during lockdown.
Yeah, that's it. Which is good. I mean, I think the problem we've done this for, well, the last one we did this, and we've sort of done this for this one as well, where we end up sort of writing in a completely different sort of genre initially, which is really strange. We sort of think, oh, maybe we should try this direction or something, and then Becca's just nicked one of the guitars, just brought it back in and tuned it really weird apparently.
Oh, cool.
I don't know. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, we started like doing songs where they're kind of really mellow and just really sort of different. And we're like, yeah, this is cool. Maybe this is the way we should go. And then we're like, nah, because then you sort of thinking playing that live, it's like you want that sort of energy. What I always used to love about when we got our like early recordings back, like the first album especially, like I'd listen to it and you get this massive like adrenaline rush because it's so fast and it's just like in your face and you're like, yes. And I was like, we need that back a bit. So we're sort of just we sort of found the sound again, I think now. So it still sounds like us lot, but it sort of just takes a bit of getting used to writing again, I think.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a weird thing. So you just sort of sit down with the guitar and you're like, okay, right, see how this goes, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, we just sort of done a lot of experimenting with stuff, and it's been really fun actually. We've got some really good ideas, so we're quietly excited about it, I think.
Cool.
Did you have a preference on touring or writing, or has it always been a love and a hate for both of them?
I think what's quite nice is that you never do both at the same, or we've never done both at the same time.
Yeah.
So when you get sick of touring, you go into the studio and it's like sick. It's sort of a nice break.
Separation.
Yeah, but then you sort of finish, or you get towards the end of the recording, or especially the time when you're getting mixes and masters back and everything, and you're just like, right, I just want to tour now. So you sort of always, I don't know, they're both equally great. But I think actually, I don't know, it's weird. I think sort of listening back to a finished album is amazing. That's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
You get this massive sense of achievement, and then touring it and then seeing the response and what people think of it is, you know, that's as sweet, I think. So they're both good. I don't really have any preference on it.
So it's a
really.
love for the cycle of the whole thing, really.
Love for the cycle. That's it. Literally it, yeah.
So, in terms of recording the first and second album, which one would you say was your favorite process as such? Is like a full era, let's call it that. So, which favorite era did you prefer at the two?
I find this quite an easy one to answer actually, because I think naturally, I think a lot of people in bands might agree with this, just because I think for us I think the first album cycle, not so much recording the second album was great. I'll get into that, but like the first, I think not so much the album, but I think it was just the fact that we'd gone from kind of this. I mean, it's not like you suddenly become megastars as soon as you sign and release an album, but we definitely saw the growth of the band shoot up quite quickly after the first album. Everything was completely new then, which there's something quite amazing about that, where you play in these festivals around the world, and we're playing a festival in Japan and a festival in Australia, and you're doing that for the first time. You're just like, so, you know, these places we'd never been to before.
Yeah.
So when you're doing gigs there and you're sort of just seeing the world and playing shows for the first time, I think you're just like, whoa, this is amazing, like completely amazing. Then with the second one, it's sort of like you've kind of done it before, but then you sort of still feel proud to have even just still be at that level to be able to do it still. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're both, I think they were just both very different. But I think as a unit, we were probably a stronger unit during the first album cycle. It was just a bit more, we were just sort of younger and just, you know, it sort of took it less seriously, but in a nice way, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
We didn't know really much about the music business. We just sort of rocked up and did gigs, and sort of managers and the label sorted everything else for us. So it was like, this is amazing. But then it wasn't until you get to the point where you're thinking, right, you know, we need to start making a bit more money now, and then you start overthinking stuff a bit, and that's when you run into issues, I think, then, because you sort of end up not writing the songs as much because you love the sound of them, more just because you're thinking this might make us a bigger band in a way.
Yeah.
And we kind of did that, whether we knew it or not, I think. But, you know, it was one of those, I think, when we did the second album, again, it was just very different, and it was amazing to hear us produced by someone like Gil, where it was just this like kind of mega huge sounding thing. We're in this really posh studio, and it was just like, this is crazy. But I think both, you know, it's trying to pick between you, like two kids in a way, you know, they both have the qualities. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe equally. I'm going to say equally, just to be non-biased.
If you have a second child and they watch this, you've gotten yourself in some trouble.
Yeah, innit?
Just saying that, so.
I'm literally thinking like that.
No plans for that just yet.
So how does writing work with you guys? Because obviously you're writing a lot and Becca's writing a lot, but do the rest of the guys tend to chuck in some material as well? Or is it more, it starts in one place, then moves to the other, again, like a cycle and goes round until the thing's finished?
It's been different for everything we've ever done, which is kind of nice. We've always sort of all written at least something. Like with the earlier stuff, like even before the album's sort of EP stuff, a lot of that was kind of me and Sam sat in my cellar at my mum and dad's house with that blue guitar that's sat behind you, which is weird, isn't it?
Yeah, so weird.
He did
Like-
that.
I love the fact that I've kept your sticker on the back of it.
I forgot about that. I forgot it was even there.
There was something here, and I can't remember what it is now, but
It was
I needed to keep all of that.
It was a Brian Jonestown Massacre sticker, I think.
That was it.
I don't know
That
why I
was
remember
it.
that, but yeah, the sort of unbranded PRS, the mystery guitar.
I know. I ended up going to, what was it? It was something at a PMT music store in Manchester where it was like meet Paul Reed Smith, like he had like
Yeah.
a talk and shit, and everyone
it at
queued up
Leeds
to
one
like say hello to him and shit like that. And he got to me and I was just like, my guitar's not got a PRS logo on it. What can I do about it? And he was just like, I'll speak to that person over there. And nothing ever happened about it. But I was like, fuck it, staying as it is.
It's because it was gold leaf.
Yeah.
On that one, because it's a 10-top one. And I left it next to a radiator. And I opened up the opened up the guitar case. I'd look inside the radiator to see where the logo was. I opened up the guitar case and like the S had fallen off. So it was Paul Reed Myth for a long time.
With a lisp.
Yeah, literally like Mike Tyson. Paul
Reed
Reed
Myth.
Yeah, McCarthy. And then it all fell off. Anyway, so
That's
we'd
the next sticker going on that guitar. Just Mike Tyson's face.
Mike Tyson's face.
Yeah. It's going to be the
Oh,
next
yeah.
back print.
So we were like, we'd sit in the cellar and we'd just write as many crazy sounding riffs as we possibly could. And we did it without a drummer, so we'd end up writing stuff in weird time signatures almost by accident, just because neither of us were sort of keeping time what we were doing. It's like, this sounds cool, let's do that. And then we'd sort of take it to Josh and he'd have like a mental breakdown and be like, what the fuck? And we'd sort of try to rein it in a lot then. But then I think for the first album, there was a lot of sort of Sam did a hell of a lot on the first album where he'd just come in with like a full song and then we just learn it type thing. And there's other bits where we'd sort of start with a riff or Josh would start with a drum beat and we'd just sort of jam it out. And it was a bit sort of more like a proper band way of writing, I think, with the first record.
Yeah.
And then the second one was just purely out of sort of, a lot of it was just sort of jamming ideas down, and I had loads and loads of instrumental stuff written that I was doing because I basically got Garageband on my iPhone initially, and I'd just do like demos on that. But I'd never sort of done anything like that before. I didn't do that for the EPs or anything, so that was quite a nice thing. So I was ended up like sort of writing full songs then, completely instrumentally, like on my own, and then taking that to the band and sort of doing it that way. And then sort of Becca and Sam would sort of do all the vocal parts and everything. I never got into any of that stuff. But whereas now, I mean, like, say me and Becca have written a hell of a lot of stuff and we just sort of write a lot of it together, or I've often sort of do like a full instrumental and then she'll just come in and sing some stuff over it. And I'm like, yeah, cool. And then we sort of break it all down and then sort of try to, you know, better it, I guess. We'll sort of live with it for a couple of days and be like, right, we can make this better, we can make that better. And so it's always been quite interesting. There's never just one sole writer for us lot. It's always a mixture of people, and it's never like, you know, sort of intentionally like that. That's just always how it's worked. So yeah, it's quite.
So are the rest of the guys, in terms of like writing and everything else, they're all still on board, the same as you guys, or is it mainly you two who's like driving the push, and then the rest of the guys are still backing you up, etc.?
Yeah, literally that. We're writing everything, but we were kind of writing a lot anyway and sort of sending them songs and they were like, yeah, cool, but there wasn't really any intention of anything happening, or we didn't know what was happening type thing. So we were just sort of sharing these ideas. Like I say, so when we were sort of thinking, oh, should we start a new band? And we sort of saw everyone and we were like, no, let's do it again. Let's try and sort it out. So we've just carried on writing. Then sort of about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, something, we basically sent them all sort of these new sort of 5 songs that we'd done. And they were like, holy shit, yeah. Like they were solid. So I think once they've got them, the sort of ears have pricked up a bit and they're like, yeah, let's properly try and start doing this shit now, basically. So we're just trying to work out a way of like either doing it properly ourselves with the sort of hand of Gil and sort of with his engineer and everything, or whether we sort of, just sort of wait it out until we can rehearse and, but we're still writing and we're doing demos that sound like proper recordings at the moment, which is a bit of a weird place to be because, demo-itis can kick in. But I think everything's recorded to a level where if there's certain things we like, we can use. Do you know what I mean? So that'll be quite funny if that goes in the credits, that there's like synth sounds I've done on my iPhone and stuff like that. To Ableton. Yeah.
That's a scary thing now, isn't it, though? That the fact of that you could literally get a synth mod or whatever on your phone and that could actually be in a full production now. The fact that you can have everything in your own hands now, rather than it being that you have to go to a studio to do something.
You don't. I think Plastic Beach by Gorillaz was recorded on an iPad, the whole thing.
Really?
Crazy.
I think so. I think it's that one. It's definitely a Gorillaz album. I'm sure it's that one. It was all on a iPad on GarageBand.
Yeah.
Using like GarageBand loops and stuff. It's just like, you don't have to pay for a studio. You save a lot of money doing
the
that.
Apple loops and GarageBand loops are the craziest one because they're free to use for anyone. And
it's mental. It's absolutely mental.
I think on it. There's a really famous pop song that's just GarageBand loops, isn't there?
Yeah, I can't think what it is.
Is it Umbrella by Rihanna? I think the drum loop in that is a GarageBand loop that they like re-recorded or something.
Go on, fact check it. Fact check it.
Live fact check.
I might have just made that up.
No, there definitely is one that is just.
That's pretty early though, isn't it? Really, like for that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That's like 2008. Why do I know that? 2007.
7. I think it's 7.
Are you a big fan of her?
Oh yeah.
No. I was going to say you can tell she's influenced.
We covered Umbrella years and years and years ago. And it was like really early on. So I was just trying to work out when it was. I think it was about 2007. So it might be 2006 then that it came out. A long time ago now, anyway.
Whilst Matt's looking for that, I think it's right really because I remember we got to when we was recording with James from Deaf Havana, who produced our most recent single. He was like, a studio can be pretty much wherever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be this one set place that you pay for with all this equipment in and live rooms, etc. You can make anywhere a studio if you want it to be.
Yeah, literally, you don't have to do that at all nowadays, which is amazing. I think when we were sort of with Roadrunner and you sort of with a major, they want it all to be through, a big studio and they want it to be the works and I'm not gonna lie, that it's an amazing experience to be able to do that, but at the same time, it's not necessarily that necessary. You can save a lot of money by not doing that, and Tame Impala, Kevin Thingy, he literally does everything himself, doesn't he, in his house, and his records sound amazing. They sound like properly amazing. So it just goes to show, it just depends how good you are at producing it. That's the only other thing, I guess.
Even
just affording the plugins, but it's all it is. Everyone's just blagging it at the end of the day, and it's just about what gear you've got, really. So if you've got like a load of good plugins and stuff, there's no reason why you can't do it yourself at all.
It's the exciting thing. Like anyone in their bedroom now can make a hit song. Look at Billie Eilish. Her brother was the producer in his bedroom.
Yeah, and that has completely, that's been like this new wave of everything. She's like one of those artists that's going to change pop music now for a long time. I think her sort of sound, that whole sort of minimalist thing, and things were sort of going that way anyway. But the fact that you listen to her songs and it's like, it sounds massive, but there's like 3 tracks, and you're like, that's sick. Do you know what I mean? It's like, there's something quite amazing about that, and I think it's nice as well that people are wanting to go back to the bare minimum, because I think for a long time everything was getting a bit washed out, especially in rock music and sort of metal music, where you've got like I don't know 200 tracks of just craziness, and you're like, it just sounds a bit too much. You know what I mean? It's almost hard to focus on what's right about the song. So I think with her stuff, she's got this real sort of purity where it's all about what she sings and how she sings it, and you can really hear what she's singing, even though she's whispering half the time. But it just works. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of that thing where less is definitely more. When a kick drum comes in, you like, whoa,
yeah, it hits you all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. Rather than thinking, and we've even learned stuff from that. You're sort of thinking it doesn't need to be. I think it's like I say again in sort of heavy rock bands and stuff. It's this thing where you want it to sound as massive as possible, but that sort of massive thing can be set by what's below it. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you start a song and it's like full floor tom, massive snare drum beat, it sounds massive already, and then you want it to go bigger, it almost sound a bit
There's no space for it.
worse. Yeah, and then so that's sort of quite an interesting way of looking at it. But then again, that's just for the record. Live, there's no reason why you can't do it that way, because live you want it to be a bit more exciting in that sense.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about like the White Stripes. They always did that, where on record it's sort of very, very minimal, and they have songs where the guitars are much cleaner, and live it's just like absolute chaos, and you're like, okay, cool. So you can just do it in a different way live, and people are more into it that way as well. I think if it's too similar to the album, sometimes it gets a bit like, you might as well just press play, you know.
People like to have a bit of a unique experience live.
Yeah, you want the energy from it and speed them up. And
sorry, jumping back to our previous one, it was Rihanna.
Was it?
Hey.
Umbrella, bang on.
Yeah.
As if.
Grimes was also in the list.
Grimes.
As well as Justice, if you've ever listened to them. So
Justice, yeah. Justice
you
is
three.
sick.
Yeah, I like Justice. Yeah, that bedroom producer thing's always been...
Daniel Bedingfield. He did it as well. Sorry.
Oh, did he? It wasn't...
You can check me on that as well. I've just remembered.
Right.
I can't
Got a new job here.
Googler.
Carry on.
If you become Jamie from Joe Rogan all of a sudden.
I think it's like going back to that again. It's more like the dynamics in it. Like we learned that from our recent studio experience, where like approaching it at first, we was like writing songs where it's just your usual, like you have a clean bit on your verse, then it goes to like full distortion or whatever for like your chorus. Whereas we've gone into this now, we're like, well, maybe if we take like the bass out in this part, or say if we put like guitars only in this part, leave it just vocals, drums and stuff. Like changing it in that sort of aspect can make it work a lot better. And like you said, the more simple sometimes, the better it sounds.
100%. Like dynamics are as important as the song, I think, a lot of the time. You know, if it's dynamically not there, it can sort of ruin a song. It's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just like you want it to be, like I say, I think you can sort of shift stuff more harmonically for it to sound good rather than actually sort of dynamically as well. So again, this is like a real pop song. Is it called Next to Me, Emily Sandé or something?
Go on, Matt.
Yes.
And
yes, it is.
look, it's just one of those where it's like a pop tune, but she's got like a really nice sort of roomy live drum sound over it.
Yeah.
And that drum beat just goes through the whole song. It's like literally a 4-bar loop that goes through the whole song. But when it gets to the chorus, you've got this impression that it's massive, but she's just like gone up a fifth or something. So it sounds like, whoa, but the drums are still doing the same thing. Dynamically, it's still the same.
Yeah.
You just get this sort of weird, I don't know. It's just clever, I think. It sort of tricks you into thinking that it sounds bigger just by where it's shifted and the chords moved up a bit or whatever. Yeah, that's what's fun about writing, I guess. It's just completely never-ending as to what you can do with a song or an idea even.
Yeah.
You can make one song sound 30 different ways, literally. I've had that problem at the moment.
Well, that's the nice thing. If we all had the same chords, the same drum beat, it'd still sound, 4 different ways because everyone's got their own approach to it and
100%.
different aspects of doing things.
It's like you guys have got your own sound though. Like for them, both of them albums, you've got your own unique sound that you go with, like which is kind of like crazy for like certain bands to have, because not everyone's got it. Sometimes people sound like other bands, if you get what I mean. Whereas Like, say for example, Matt sometimes would be playing like some sort of like a guitar riff, and I'd be like, "Oh man, that does sound a bit Marmozet'sy, that."
I was
You know what I
literally
mean?
thinking that. I
Yeah,
was like,
because that's happened
Guitar.
quite a few times. Yeah, it must be that guitar.
yeah.
It's the curse of
Yeah.
that guitar.
Yeah,
Which makes you play a certain way.
but that's cool though, because you know what I mean. It's instantly recognizable though.
That's cool. I mean, it's kind of a fluke. I think a lot of it is down to the fact that none of us listen to music that sound like Marmozettes, really. But I mean, maybe initially we kind of did a bit, but it's just weird. I think it's because we all listen to such different music, and like now more than ever as well. I think when we were sort of touring a lot initially, Will was like mega into his hardcore stuff, like sort of Terror and Cro-Mags and all that type of thing. And Josh has always been really into dance music, and so he sort of had a bit of a sort of dancey approach in the drums and like the grooves sometimes. Sam's like well into like Arctic Monkeys and the Strokes and kind of, you know, sort of 2000s indie stuff, I guess.
yeah.
Becca listens to like bloody Celine Dion and shit like that.
Mhm.
She's just like into all sorts of random stuff, but we have like common ground as well. We have like stuff that we all really like together, but it's not necessarily directly influenced from that. We just sort of seem to write in a way that sounds like us, which is, I don't know how it's not like an intentional thing. I don't think. I think we definitely had influence from bands before, like when we were a bit heavy. It was like we all listening to Dillinger Escape Plan. We just wanted to sound like them. Then we sort of got onto the Fall of Troy and we're like, right, we want to sound like them. But then I guess because we have a female vocalist and we have Becca singing, you sort of naturally get, I don't know, sort of put into a different territory then, in a sense.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of sort of Paramore comparisons and all that type of thing. And I guess that's sort of maybe laziness. Maybe we do sound at times, but that was never an intentional thing. But
Did you get that a lot with being female fronted?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because people just look at a picture of your band. I mean, you guys will experience the same thing, I'm sure, when, you know, that Deaf Institute show. You had a female singer, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So people would have looked at your press shots, our press shots, and gone, "Oh, Paramore," you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Especially when I think I went through a ginger phase as well.
Well, we thought, Joe, what? Instead of trying to avoid the tag, we're just going to go right into it and we'll just embrace the
Lean
Paramore
into it.
vibe. And then we got about, it must have been about 9 months into this whole thing of like, we're just going to sound like self-titled Paramore. And then it was like, this really doesn't work for us. But I think that's just the curse of being, unfortunately, a female-fronted band. Where I imagine it's what it was like when Blondie was the thing, and then not getting replaced by Evanescence, and then again got replaced by Paramore. And I think it's just the curse of what the most popular female-fronted band is. Someone's then going to correlate and go, I relate this to that.
Yeah, it's easy, but I think people feel more comfortable by just putting things into boxes. It's sort of tidier for them. They can be like, oh, it's really heavy. That sounds a bit like Slipknot. And it won't really. It might do a little bit, but it just, that settles them. It puts them in, you know what I mean? Just to think they can't accept that it might be something completely new and they haven't heard it before. You know, we do get sort of to a lot of other bands and sort of some bands I've never heard of myself or never really listened to much, but I think that's what we've always quite enjoyed secretly, is the fact that people, as much as they did want to say they sound like Paramore, we never really did. But even if we did, it's not a big issue. They're like a really good band. Like a really good band. And
I like to think your band was one of the bands that took away that thought of people going female-fronted band that's going to sound like Paramore. I think that was something initially that people thought, but your band's one of them that broke that down and made people realise that that's not the case.
I would have liked to have seen the look on the friend's face who told the friend that, oh, come watch these guys. They sound a bit like Paramore. So that friend came along and then watched you guys live and realised it's completely the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, that's really nice to hear, though, I think. It's like one of those where, you know, like I said, we were never intentionally trying to sound like them, or we just had distorted guitars and a girl singer. That's the only real similarity there. But again, I think, like you said, we sort of learned to kind of embrace it. Not that we would like a rip-off of them, but we sort of thought, well, if we do, we used to see it almost as an offence when people are like, oh, so it's a bit like Paramore. And you'd be like, oh, no, it was almost a bit frustrating. But then we did get to the point where that comparison completely left. I think it's more as the band sort of started to gain its own identity, its own fan base, and we started getting a bit more of a following that we then kind of lost that whole tag.
Yeah.
Nice one then, mate.
That's something stuck in my back of I was like going about you going.
Sorry.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
That's funny.
Keeping that in.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
It's gonna be on loop.
just that. Yeah.
Last time I found one of Matt's laughs sounds like Jimmy Carr, like perfectly. In fact, I might try and find it now. There
Oh,
it
what,
is.
that was-
Yeah, that's it.
Did you just run in and leave then?
Yeah. A sprint. You
Do I
found
ship-
it,
You what?
Pearson. What was that? I was saying, have you found that clip?
What clip? This
The
a nice
Jimmy
song.
Carr one.
Oh, well, you did it live. I didn't. Think
Oh
it was
well, that's
necessary.
fine.
Oh, man.
All right then.
Fucking hell.
So we'll get on to a next stage now. So we always ask our guests every time we have one on, what's your favourite scary movie?
Okay, this is a bit of Matt mentioned this to me earlier, and I was a bit like, oh, because I'm weird, right? I've got a bit of a weird memory with films as well, because I've seen loads of horror movies, but I'm going to say one that's like definitely my favorite horror movie, but I'm not sure whether it would class as a horror movie, really.
Right.
Because I've watched this film about 50 times. Shaun of the Dead. I know you've probably heard that one before.
Oh,
as
I've
well.
had this conversation recently, actually, if it's actually a horror or not. I think I'd come from it as the approach of it's a comedy horror. So it's
Yeah.
its own subgenre within horror, but it's not like, I mean, if you watch the movie, there's so many like throwbacks and like nods to loads of different zombie films in there, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool. So
That was
yeah,
like the first sort of horror movie that I watched. I thought that was just bloody brilliant. If we won't class it as a horror movie, there's a couple that scared the shit out of me. The one being the Exorcism of Emily Rose. That's sort of like that
Right.
weird paranormal thing.
yeah.
That for some reason freaked the hell out of me. It was horrendous. I didn't sleep for like 2 weeks after that. Just weird, like proper weird.
Are you a fan of horror, or is it something you're forced to watch?
I do enjoy it. I just have these weird. It's sort of like, you know, if you're at a bar or something and there's like you've got a shot of tequila and you go yeah, and then someone goes have another one and you sort of thinking I'm gonna regret that in the morning. I'm a bit like with a horror film where I really enjoy it to a point and I'm thinking I'm gonna be freaked out later by this.
Yeah.
The weirdest one. It's not even that scary now thinking about it. It just was at the time for purely this reason. I was at my friend's house in Doncaster. This lad I went to college with, and we sort of. It seems a bit weird, doesn't it? You used to go like sleep over at my mate's house, and it was like, you know, we had a laugh and everything. And he basically was like, "I've got this film. It's not being released in cinemas. I think it's a snuff film basically, and it's super scary. It's like genuine paranormal footage." And I was like, "Holy shit! All right, okay, let's watch that." So it was Paranormal Activity, the first one, basically.
Yeah.
And again, it's not super, super frightening, really. But I was sat there under the impression that it was genuinely real. And I fully believed him and bought into it. So I was watching it just like, oh my God, like absolutely shit me up.
But that was one of the first ones in a while since probably Blair Witch that came across that sort of found footage. I
Yeah,
know they had films like Wreck and that, but
Oh,
no,
Wreck 2. Fucking hell,
yeah,
I forgot about that.
yeah,
The Spanish one. That's my favourite
crazy.
horror movie. I forgot about that.
Wreck 2 is a really good one.
Wreck 2 is your favourite.
Rec 2 is the Spanish one.
Yeah, it is, yeah, in the
They did
building.
an American one, didn't they, as well?
Yeah, Quarantine.
Yeah.
Wasn't quite the same, was it? I think the Spanish one, it made it scarier, the fact that I didn't really know what they were saying. But then it gets to the point where you don't even bother looking at the subtitles.
Nah.
It's just like, whoa. The fact that they're like zombies that can sprint.
Yeah. They're like demons, aren't they? They're like
Demon zombies.
yeah. It's crazy. But yeah, Paranormal Activity, that was like one of the first kind of ones that was released in UK cinemas. Like, you know, that we had.
Rumored that it was a true story as well when it was published.
Well, it was a haunted house. It was supposedly actually a haunted house, wasn't it? That it was filmed in.
Oh, was it? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
I think it was the director's house that they filmed it in or something.
Yeah,
like
it
that.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was a low budget film, but the fact that it gained like so much success from being a low budget film just goes to show that you can do something simple like that, and it could be like really effective. But I think they kind of milked it after a bit.
Yeah, it got to like, what is it, like the 10th one or whatever, and you're a bit like,
Yeah.
It's like Fast and Furious, isn't it? It just keeps going. Just like, stop.
Like I said, it looked really real at first though when you saw it, because like it's one of
It's like
those, and it
CCTV footage, isn't it? And
yeah.
Video camera.
Yeah, it shit me up. I think the second one was pretty good as well. I watched that in cinema.
Yeah,
And
I think the
that
second
was
one
good.
carried on, and then they got carried away.
They did a little bit. Yeah, I think it was the second one that sort of went. It was sort of before the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was supposed to be like a prequel.
Yeah.
Quite like that. But I've seen a bunch. I mean, it's just sort of remembering all the titles. I'm really bad with films. I've never really been like a massive film buff. I always enjoy them when I watch them, but I'm never sort of set out to watch one, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas Becca's like, she's well into films and stuff like that. So she's always like, "Can we watch this?" And I'm like, yeah, cool. So, you know, I'm sort of like not. I don't know. I've never been massively sort of gone out my way to watch loads of films, if you know what I mean. But not in a bad way, just because I just haven't, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, but I'm trying to think of anything else that's freaked me out.
You watched any recent ones at all, or have you watched any during lockdown?
Not horror movies. We're a bit worried that this house is haunted, actually, so we keep sort of trying to avoid shit. Like this room, and the light just sort of does what it wants. It just sort of turns off and on, and I'm just thinking it's a fuse or something, but yeah, I don't know. And like Dolly now, so she's just started. My daughter, she's like a cot's in our room, but there's sort of the door next to it. But like the other day, she freaked back out because she was just sort of sat. I think I was in here teaching, and she just sat in a cot, and she only ever waves at people like when they're there, and she just sat in a cot, and she was just like smiling out the door and waving.
Whoa.
I was like, "Jack," and I was like, "No, I'm in my lesson." She's like, "Oh," she was just sat there like waving. So we're a bit like, oh, might film my own paranormal activity. And get back
Next MARMOZET'S music video.
Yeah. Oh God. I hope not.
Well, they always
Freaks
say
me out,
like kids can see like ghosts and stuff, don't they? Do you believe in any of that?
I don't know. It's a bit weird because I was speaking to my parents about this the other day, and I was like, well, they told me that I had like imaginary friends apparently when I was little, and that kind of spooked me a bit. I was like, oh God. So I don't know. I don't remember them. But yeah, I don't know. I get really like weirdly into it for a minute, and then I'm like, no. Do you know what I mean? I sort of like to believe that it is true, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've always wanted to do a Ouija board just to see if anything would happen.
I did one with an ex-girlfriend and her dad about 10 years ago, and it was genuinely scary as hell.
But did something happen?
Oh yeah, but again, it was weird because I think it was the first time I'd met her dad and and her stepmom or something. So didn't know anything about me. I don't think we'd been together that long. And we basically sat doing this. He was like, "Should do a Ouija board," and I was like, "Yeah, fuck it. I mean, what's the worst that's gonna happen? It can't be real." So we sort of sat around this table. It was in a place called Thornton, which is where you might have heard the Bronte sisters or heard of them. Maybe it's like a thing that you might have, maybe not. They were like this.
Actually, no.
They're supposed to be a famous family from around here from years ago.
Right.
Did like a load of books and stuff like that. It's round basically near where they are from, about 200 years ago or something. Anyway, we sat around and did this Ouija board, and we did a few, and it's sort of like things on the shot glass, and it was like super loose, and it was moving about, and I was like, whoa. But I was sort of thinking it was one of them messing with us.
Yeah.
And like random stuff would come up where it'd be like, who is it? And it'd be like Heather Feather, and then it'd like exit, and we're like, what is this? Is just a bit weird. Like, who's doing this? And then one, it said, who do you like to speak to? And it said Jack. And like my heart was like,
that's crazy. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so it's like moving about. And it kept saying Boak. So it's a word I'd never heard. B-O-A-K. Never heard of it before. B-O-A-K, B-O-A-K. I was like, what does that mean? We're all looking at each other a bit puzzled. And I was like a bit freaked out. And I was like, what's my sister's middle name. So I knew that nobody there knew that.
Yeah.
But again, I was sort of thinking, am I subconsciously trying to shift it or not? And it spelled like Olivia. And I was like, fuck. I was like, what's my brother's birthday? And it'd be like 18th of April. And I was like,
What?
oh my
Stuff I
God.
would have no idea.
That's
knowing.
insane.
And then it was like, at the end, it was really sweet, actually. We were trying to work out who it was, because then it said, sorry, that was it. This thing where it said, Ogan. So Ogan's it was my grandmother's maiden name. It's a
Right.
weird surname. I actually didn't know how to spell it. I called her afterwards to confirm that it was spelt right, and that was it. Again, it's really messes with your mind. But it said like "I love you" before it left, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I was like, it genuinely really overwhelming. I was like freaked out, but thinking nobody here knows
Yeah.
any
Of
of
that
this.
details.
And I swear my finger was on it so light. It was so weird. And Boke basically means to feel. Google it afterwards. To feel like nauseous or seasick. And all my grandmother's sort of family were all like sailors and stuff like that with the surname Ogan. So we had this weird.
That's insane.
Yeah.
What?
It was, but that was like kind of an amazing positive from it.
Yeah.
I would never do one again though, purely because that like terrified me. But it was really weirdly overwhelming at the same time. Kind of a weird experience, really. I was just like, I think I'm gonna go home now. Yeah, it was.
Okay,
That was
thanks,
really
bye.
bizarre. Yeah, I'm like, bye. You dumped. God, yeah. Ugh, forgot about that. Fucking hell.
Yeah,
Ugh.
sorry to bring that all up
It's
for
fine.
you.
That was my fault. I'm like,
All right. So the next one that we always do in every episode is pet peeves. So the rule is that you pick something that absolutely pisses you off, and then we discuss it.
Just have a
So
run.
over to you.
Okay, here we go. So I think for me, I mean, I've got many. I'm going to go with this one because I feel like it's the most polite one. That would sound like a complete prick. I'd say probably having to be somewhere quite urgently in London, being on the tube, and in between tubes having extremely slow people that just can't seem to walk at a normal pace and being stuck behind them.
Yeah.
Often sort of maybe tourists or people that haven't been to London before that sort of just want to have a look around the tube for whatever reason, not realizing that this is a mode of transport and people need to sort of be places. And I almost sound like a Londoner, don't I? It's horrendous. But that always does my head in. It's just
That in
like,
general does my head in,
God.
but in London it seems to be amped up even more so.
yeah, up here it's fine. I just walk around them.
Yeah.
There's like a
London
million
so
people
really-
around me. Yeah, it's just like. That's
But I
always
find in London on them, on the escalators, they all have that system though, don't they, where you queue on the right hand side, and anyone who wants to get past you goes up on the left. Because I've never seen that anywhere else in England, really, apart from London.
It's funny because in Leeds train station it's the opposite. It's stand on the left.
Right?
I'm like, you need to make one rule for this. 'cause
Yeah,
we get
yeah.
some very confused Londoners.
I think that's a north and south thing, isn't it? I think you had to have the polar opposite because you're in the north rather than the south.
Literally, does feel
just
like
to be
that.
different.
Yeah, but it's bad. That or burping. That's a horrendous one. Burping out loud for no reason.
Go on, explain what makes it so bad.
I feel like it's just really, I don't know, it just really irritates me.
I'm happy you said that because I was going to burp earlier when finishing my
Don't.
drink, but I thought, oh, well, I didn't. I thought, I won't usually on the podcast. I don't care and I will, but
I don't know what it is. There's not, I mean, to be fair, I don't think there's that many things that really piss me off. That's just one where I'm a bit like, oh, don't do that. That and loud eating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big one for me.
Can't
I
do
think
that.
that's most people, to be honest.
Then I remember it was just horrendous. Like, not horrendous. That's a bit of a strong word. Like my brother Will. This is when we were like really young. I remember he was eating. I got really pissed off about it because he was eating like crisps right in my ear, and I was like, "Can you eat a bit quieter?" And he was there like trying to eat. Then you feel really bad because they're trying to eat really quiet. And got their hand over the mouth, like try to eat these crisps, and it sort of amplifies the sound even more. Somehow they're like, "I'm sorry." Sorry, I was trying not to be horrible with this question. It's hard, isn't it?
I think everyone just gets to the point where like, right, fuck it, this really annoys me.
What's the best pet hate that you've heard from subject.
Ooh.
The most comical one was we asked someone what pisses you off the most, and they said podcasters.
Yeah.
I
Thanks
forgot
a lot.
about that. Forgot about that.
That's probably the funniest one.
Did they say it without sort of realizing where they were for a second or something?
No, I think it was intentional, in like a backhanded compliment way.
God,
Yeah,
it's a bit
I
rough,
won't
that,
say who, but yeah, that's how I felt. I was like, "Oh, we're finishing this up then, aren't we?"
We're wrapping up. We're wrapping up.
Jesus. Dear me.
That's the one that's took me by surprise most. But in terms of one that I agree with, I don't really know.
Can't remember, to be honest with you. It's been so many.
I'm gonna have a listen back through them all now, and
All 34 episodes by this point.
30. How long have you been doing it then? This?
Just
about
over a year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's awesome. 34 is a lot, isn't it?
There's a lot when you think about it.
A lot of 34 hours.
It's kept us busy though, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely kept us busy.
basically did it because I got fed up of being in a band that wasn't going anywhere. So I was like, oh, I'll just talk about music instead. And here we are now chatting.
It's the story from
Ta-da.
people in music journalism, I think, isn't it? That
Yeah.
we've got this overwhelming passion for it. So, but you do sort of realize that there's other outlets in music, which I think is quite a lovely thing. It's not like where you can just do one specific thing within music. If you love music, you love, you know, and especially from being in a band, I think you can learn to love so many different parts of it. Like Will at one point was looking at working for a booking agency. Sam's currently doing a bit of management work as well. And, you know, like now I'm demoing and sort of, I mean, I don't want to say producing, but I'm sort of recording stuff myself properly for the first time.
Yeah.
That's all really enjoyable. So there's constantly new things that you can learn from it, which is nice. It's the same, I guess, with the podcasting thing as well. You're in a position where you can talk about music, and that's, you know, I think talking about music or something you love is as enjoyable as actually doing it sometimes. So yeah, it's sick.
Yeah, that's what I like is like music as a whole, a label, but you've got this such a big circle around the whole industry. There's so many things you can do. The fact that you can do anything in it.
As long as you believe, you've got to believe, man.
Believe. I think that's the thing where you get to with being in the band. You have to have the appreciation of being in a band to then understand everything else that goes into music. I think if you didn't have that step, you wouldn't have that appreciation. I don't think.
No, it's got its sort of burdens at the same time where you can't listen to music the same, having written songs yourselves.
Yeah.
You know, you sort of end up over analyzing stuff. Whereas, like, if I play a song to my mate, they might be like, "Yeah, it's cool, that, yeah." That's as far as it goes. That's as far as they care to go with it.
Yeah.
Whereas, say,
no one's going, do you hear that tone on the guitar and the way it's panned just slightly to the left? And
yeah, and I
no
do
one's
that where I
analysing
listen to songs where I'm listening to the mix rather than almost listening to the song. And you sort of you try to work out where everything's panned and how they've
what
made
production
that sound like
techniques
that.
are on it and stuff.
Yeah, and it's at times a bit annoying because I end up doing that when I'm trying to listen to a band for the first time and I'm just like thinking about the recording.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of start, especially if it's like an overwhelming production, but then you can sort of start getting into the song a bit more. It's sort of, I think, again, sort of like simpler production, then I end up liking the songs straight away if it's just a bit, you know, there's less going on in a sense. I seem to be moving a bit more into the fact that the next album's going to sound like white noise, probably. It's going to be that minimal. I'm just like, just want everything to be really chilled, really simple. Yeah, do like a silent album. Do that.
I think the best compliment I've got in terms of music from a non-musician is them going, I can imagine that on FIFA.
Yeah.
That seems to be quite a common one.
Yeah, sounds like a FIFA song. Oh, I can imagine that in a film. That's what
Yeah.
Sounds like film music, does it? Because film music they're just songs, mate. That's all
Yeah.
So maybe, yeah, you've got a film in mind. We'll pitch it. Yeah, make
Pitch
some actual money.
Yeah.
Well, I saw that you featured on the Marvel's Cloak and Dagger soundtrack, according to Google.
I did not know that.
Apparently you are. You're in the soundtrack listing.
Recently.
2019.
I'll get on it.
Oh, wow.
Don't worry.
Hang on, I'm on it.
I feel sorry for Matt now. He's just like, oh, do it.
Oh, do it.
That's cool. The one that it's funny this actually. It's the only time we've actually ever had an actual kind of check through of actual sort of almost substantial money was through a NXT WWE pay-per-view that we got on.
If you can see.
All right, you got played on that.
We would like it was us and I'm trying to think of the band. It wasn't it was an NXT pay-per-view. The best thing about it was that Triple H tweeted us. I was just like,
yes,
sick.
yes.
I like this about NXT. They seem to like play a lot of heavier bands on it, which is quite nice.
Yeah, and it's I'm trying to think the other band. We were both sort of similar size, like not massive bands at all. So that was really cool as well, in a sense that they were sort of showcasing in front of a lot of people. I'd imagine a lot of people watch that pay-per-view.
Yeah.
It's not quite WrestleMania, although Young Guns got WrestleMania, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
But I remember, I think I was speaking to John about that. I felt really sorry for them. They were like so bummed out. They basically flew out to go and they basically got promised tickets to watch WrestleMania, basically.
Yeah.
Because they were on the soundtrack. We didn't get any of that. But anyway, so they were in, but P. Diddy was performing and he maxed out the guest list because.
Fucking hell.
So they ended up sitting
As
in a
if.
hotel, watching it, like streaming it or something, and hearing the song every sort of 5 minutes or whatever.
Wow.
Like that.
As if.
I'm not sure whether they were on tour in America already or whether they actually flew out for it, because that would have really sucked. But still, to go to WrestleMania
to
is pretty
fly
sick.
out for it as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether they did or whether they were there already, but yeah, God,
Jesus.
bummer.
How big would that guest list have been, though?
A lot.
WrestleMania. Are we just calling out P. Diddy now?
No.
Nah.
He did.
Did you find out what episode it was, Matt?
Oh, I found out that it was track 4 on Cloak and Dagger season 2, so you're lost in translation.
That's like an obscure one as well. That's pretty cool. That's like just a random album track.
To be fair, I could probably see that on a TV show. The drums at the beginning.
Yes.
Did you just do that sounds like it could be on a TV show? Though?
Yeah.
That's what friends are for.
Boom.
That's weird. I think we got on a program called Our Girl and Captivate You was like the end credits for that. We've been on like tattoo fixes. We were on Coronation Street once actually, which is hilarious. I never watched that. I was watching it and there's our song in the background. I was like, whoa. But it's sort of if you're playlisted or you've got a new single out, and then that was literally just what the publisher would do for us. But we never knew what we were on. We'd sort of see a tweet. Someone like, no way, you're on this program. We're like, oh. I saw that we were on something the other day that I was like, you feel a bit weird because you feel like you sort of should be told.
Yeah.
You'd think you would be.
But yeah, you're just not. It just appears and you're like, cool. It's not a bad thing though. People are playing your ears, that's good. Because it's not like, I don't know, it's a bit weird though. You sort of want to be asked permission. You'd definitely say yes anyway. But like,
Yeah.
Yeah, strange.
Be crazy though, watching Coronation Street and then you hear yourself being played in Rover's Return.
It was like, I think it was like Born Young and Free as well. It was like, it wasn't a mellow song.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Coronation Street that referenced Cradle of Filth?
Yeah.
Week?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, they're expanding.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're definitely building up to a Goth Family or Danny Filth having a feature on Coronation Street for like a week or something. That's going to be the next step. That'll be the next.
Watching.
Yeah, I would.
Danny Filth lived in Corrie.
Runs the garage or the pub.
The new family that come to like destroy the pub. Yeah.
Can I have a pint? Sorry, we've only got Trooper.
Oh yeah, low blow. Ooh, it's the Filth family.
I'd start watching it if they did that. Change it up a bit.
Just in there with full makeup on though, like full regalia.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then a fight with Roy.
Nearly got run over by him. I don't think I've told.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah. I nearly got. Oh, that's a well good term. Yeah, I nearly got croppered. I was walking from uni to the centre of Manchester, and it was in the middle of Manchester somewhere. And we was walking towards like the Airedale or something, and just as I was crossing like this like little side street that goes down this back alley, this car came out of nowhere and nearly took me out. So it was partially my fault for not looking, but then it was his fault at the same time because he nearly ran me over. So I turned around to like flip the person off who nearly ran me over, and then I looked and I realised it was Roy Cropper sat in there. I was like, "What the fuck?"
That's amazing.
Can you imagine if that would have gone through though? Like if he would have actually ran me over and I would have got croppered.
Full croppered.
Full croppered.
I am just picturing like you crossing an alleyway and Roy Cropper full on flooring it.
Oh man, that's a good title track. That actually, Full Croppered.
I've got that from it. There's a Twitter account that's like a spoof Roy Cropper account, and it's like this really like they've created him to be like this really like filthy bloke, and it's always like hashtag you've been croppered. It's funny.
Amazing.
Fucking hell.
And on that note,
Yeah.
but yeah, otherwise, man, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
When we started this podcast, it was one of them things where like, I wonder who we'd really like to get on. And I think you were like one of the first people like we listed on it.
Well,
So
that's
we finally got there. we
Yeah,
finally got you on.
Thanks for joining us.
No, it's been lovely. It's been really good. Really enjoyed myself. It's been really nice. Nice to meet you all again.
Yeah, man.
Been a hot minute. But yeah, look after yourselves. I'll see you soon, hopefully. Next time in Manchester, we'll go for a beer or 6.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Right then, I'll see you soon.
All you.
Fantastic. So yeah, so you've just been listening to an Earful podcast. We were speaking to Jack there. Well, certainly I wasn't. It was certainly the guys from an Earful podcast. I spoke to Jack from MARMOZET'S there. And if you haven't yet already, check out some previous episodes. All up on, you've got YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, any form of social media there. You can probably catch them on. The gang, the crew, the guy, them. Woy. But make sure you're definitely listening to whatever they've got to say as well, because they're sending out positive messages throughout the whole podcast as well. They're putting out good things, information that you need to take on board. Just get behind it, man. You know, support your friends, get behind it, and just keep on listening to whatever they got to say, you know. Episode 5, yeah. That's how far back I was. I've grown a beard, a hat. We've had a pandemic. I mean, yeah, it's been a day. It's been a month. It's been a whole fucking year. Yeah, good times. And keep on shouting out an Earful podcast. Yo.
Alex Smith, everyone. Alex Smith, everyone.